So let's get started on the clone yourself Photoshop project where you take a scene in Photoshop and you basically clone yourself into multiple positions, preferably with some interaction between the different versions of yourself in the image. You can see I've taken some pictures here in the band room of one of my favorite subjects, Mr. Bonnie, and we're getting him to interact while he's playing some of the different instruments that are there. And so to get started in Photoshop, we're going to actually begin with opening up one of our images. Now you want to use as your background image the image that you think will be furthest in the back, and for me, that is this one here where he's getting ready to smash the cymbals on top of the person that's playing the trumpet. So that'll be my background image. And then I can then bring in, and you can do them in order as you're thinking about this, but if I go up to view here and click on extra large icons, I can see that a little bit better. You can start bringing them in as you kind of think that you're going to be working on them, but of course, since you're in Photoshop, you can be changing the order of these layers as you need. So it's not critical that you bring them in the order that you're going to be working on them, because you can move them around. I'm just dragging them from File Explorer, and then I just press Enter on them as it places them in. So I think that will be good there, and then we need the one that's going to be on the top here. So if we start with this image of him here conducting, there's not any overlap here with this image. And so if I just go back to the base layer that it's going to be, and think about that as my background layer, the only thing we can see is it's quite a bit off in terms of where it's located. So the first thing I'm going to do is lower my opacity down so I can see the difference between the two. And there's filing cabinets and chairs and things that I can line up. Let me hit Control plus a little bit here. You can see the sousaphone here. So easy thing to do is with that opacity turned down, I'm just going to hit Control T, and I'm just going to press my right arrow key on my image, and I'm just going to keep sliding that image over. I'm keeping my eye on the stand, the podium and the stand that are at the bottom, and I'm just going to kind of move that into place. It doesn't have to be perfect, but that's what I'm looking for, and I can kind of look at the line on the wall and line that up. If need be, I might even scale that down. Let me see, just a little bit. I don't want to do it from there if it's going to pinch that. But okay, so let's kind of take a look now. If I bring that opacity up, let me see here. You can see that matches pretty good. So all I need to do to put this in place is I'm going to put a mask on here. And I really just have to, I can leave the podium with it too, and I just really need to kind of come up this music stand and come around here with the mask. So I'll come down to my layers mask and add a layer mask. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to click on my brush tool, press B on my keyboard, or come down here to brush, and switch my background color and foreground color. So press X on my keyboard to swap that around. Now my brush is really small. I'm going to start with a really big brush. The brackets next to the letter T, the right bracket will make my brush bigger, and the left bracket will make it smaller. If you ever have it so that it's just showing the crosshairs like this, check to see if your caps lock key is on. So if your caps lock key is on, it's not going to show the brush size. So I'm going to bring that way up. And you can make sure that your brush, if you're in basic brushes here or general brushes, is just a soft round brush. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint out. I'm going to stay away from that music stand because I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to paint out this part here. I'll actually go all the way back here till that's all the way out. You can see over here, it's black. It's removing that part of the image. It's hiding it. And that's not really what I want. What I want to do is I want to flip that. So with the layer mask selected, you can see that I'm on the layer mask here. Press Control I, and it will switch the black and the white. And you can see here that layer is done. Okay? If I needed to go back, I could press X on my keyboard, and I could make sure I'm on the layer mask, I could add things back in here to make them match. But that looks pretty good. All right, so let's move on to the next layer here. So now I have him playing the flute. So again, I want to bring down my opacity, and let's get that lined up here. Grab my mover tool and simply start moving that in place. So I have the stand there and the chair. So you kind of get that little double vision. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see that and scroll over and just make sure things are lined up. Okay, that looks pretty good. Zoom out a little bit. So again, I'm going to follow this process. I just need him in that image. So let me bring the opacity back up and add a layer mask. Grab my brush. All right, and so now, again, I'm just going to go around him. I'm going to delete him out of there. Press X to switch to black. I'm just going to go around. I'm going to leave the chair. I want to see what happens with that chair. And let's just bring him in here just like that. There's a little bit there. Okay. And we'll hit Control I to invert that. How do we look there? Now you can see in here, I can see a little bit of this chair, right, that's been duplicated. Let's mask out the chair. So now, if I, see that's bringing the old one in. So let me press X. I'm just going to come in here and get that chair. Just going over that. Okay, so he's on his own chair. That looks good. There's a little bit of doubling here. So let's come down a little bit in here. And then with black here, white, let's just kind of go around that, just cleaning that up. So I don't need to duplicate all of these things back in here. Let's get the drum where it's supposed to be. All right. I think we want to go the other way. Let's keep this intact because those other pieces are going to match up in there. Let's just go around him like this. Yep. And you just have to be careful coming down to this chair. So his chair didn't actually really match right there. So we're just going to kind of make that work together. All right. So far, so good. Clean up that. Okay, so that's how the masking works. I don't think I'll do all of these, but I do want you to see. So that's what we have so far. And you can get by with doing that for pretty much all of them except when they're going to overlap. So let's talk a little bit about overlapping. So I want to just hide these for now, and let's work on this person that's going to be right in front of him and the symbol. So I just have that background image. And there's the trumpet. So it's going to be a little bit more complicated when it's like that. So let's start with aligning it. Let's bring in that opacity, bring that down so we can see. And I'm going to click on my mover tool and just move that so things line up. And it's really, I'm just looking at that music stand. So that's good. All right, so I have that where I want it. Now what do I do? Well, this is going to be a little bit harder because I'm overlapping my images, right? So this is where we need to get more specific. I'm going to use the pin tool. I'm going to go around the stand and him here. I'm going to use this line right here. Let me zoom in to do that. Okay, let me just click. This is where I might have to get closer in and get precise here because this is going to be much trickier. So you might have to do this for some layers. You probably don't have to do it for all of them. But this ability to go around it here will be important. So nice matching hair color to the color of the cabinets, making things a little trickier here, but we'll get it. glasses will be tricky. Of course, when you're doing these projects, you always know a little bit better when you're done of how you can do it a little bit better. But that's part of the process, is just learning and seeing how you can plan accordingly. So I'm going to get this chair as well, because I know that's in there. Let me zoom out now. The leg's going to be included, because it's probably going to need to overlap. All right, and I can just come up here. This part is not that critical, and connect back. So just like we did before when we were cutting out an image, I want to use Control-Enter to select. I would like to soften that edge a little bit, so let's just go to Modify and Feather. Let's put a 1 pixel feather on that just to help it blend a little bit. And now with that selected, if I click on my layer mask, it's going to add the mask as if I painted it in there. And that looks pretty good, right? That's cut in there pretty good. You can see now. I could come around the edges here, see, or I could blend it and grab my paintbrush, and I can come in with a much smaller brush, a nice soft brush, and come in here, and I can, make sure I'm on my mask, and press X so that I'm in black, and I can just come in here and kind of blend this edge, bringing these things together. So I can soften this edge up, and that will actually start bringing these two things together. Now the same thing with the hair around the edge here and the glasses. Now I'm going to zoom way in on the glasses. I probably want to select those glasses. I can make sure you're on your picture data now. Grab your magic wand tool, and I can hold down my shift key to click multiple pixels in here until I feel like I have that pretty good. I still want to feather it, so go back up to Feather, select Modify Feather, and now I will come in here, and let me see if I press Delete. Oh, I have to be on my mask. Let me see here. I'm going to use my paint bucket. I'll paint that with black. That's pretty good. I could come in there with a smaller brush and kind of clean that up, but you can see that effect that you have. So now let's see what that looks like with the other two layers. Okay, now I can see there that my mask is overlapping that a little bit. I can see that when I turn this on. So just click on your mask. Always make sure you're on your mask when you want to edit it. Grab your brush, press B, and now with a little bit smaller brush than I used before, I just want to clean that up. And it doesn't really matter except where it's overlapping the figures here. You can see that there. So you can kind of see what's going on there as they interact between the two pictures. Hey, we're coming along here. All right, I'm going to let you go there. I've shown you the two techniques using the mask. Use these techniques to add in your different layers and blend them together. Use this idea of a mask to join the pictures together, and just keep going around until you get your complete image. When you're done with your image, you can use the crop tool if there's some extra pieces on there. You can set that to be a 4x6 if you want. I need to come up here and click on these double arrows to reverse that. So if I know if I want a 4x6, I can use that ratio in there, and then simply, when I'm done with that, you can press Enter, and it'll crop it down to the side, that shape that you want. Okay? Make sure you save that as a Photoshop file, and then you can export it as a JPEG to turn it in. Good luck. I'm looking forward to seeing the different interactions that you've created.